Let's start getting some output from our customer application. Before that, let's see how things usually set up. Let's assume that we have a web server which is running in a different host than our client application. One of the job of web server is to allow communication over wires. That's what I'm trying to depict here. And web server actually implements some specification, and that's we are going to see, and that is the container that I am showing you here. So the container actually manages life cycle of a lot of components. Servlet is one of those components. So what usually happens is when we start the web server, so it creates a socket and starts listening at a particular port. Then the client application, when it is ready to send some request, it gets a random port. It creates a socket in its side and then prepares the request and then send it across the wire. So this is the network stack usually sitting in every system, and then the request comes over the wire to the host where the web server is running, and the host then gives this request to the port where it is intended to. In this case, this is our Tomcat server running, and Tomcat server, I actually, to be honest, I don't know how they have implemented it, but usually they should be having some kind of queue where the request will be sitting, and they usually they should be maintaining a thread pool. When they're ready, the web server is ready, it gets a thread out of its thread pool, get the request from the tail of the queue, and then it gives that request to the servlet container. Servlet container then will read some kind of descriptor which is part of the specification, and then the request will be mapped to the particular servlet that is intended for that particular request. Let's see now what specification I'm talking about. So I'm again come to the Tomcat documentation, and in the home page you will see that Apache Tomcat, this version, implements the servlet 4.0 and this specifications. Right? So it implements this specifications. If you go to Java servlet specification, you have this. And you have this final release download page. You can download the specifications here. I have already downloaded the specifications for myself. You can also download it for yourself, right? And you'll get a lot of information here. You need this. Coming back to this picture, so here when the web server delivers the request to servlet container, we want some servlet to handle that request. Now, to prepare a servlet, you need to do something as per the servlet specification. Now, if you open this spec, right, and you go to the chapter 2, you will see that this you can read for yourself. The servlet interface is the central abstraction of the Java servlet API. So we need some kind of API for us to implement. We will use some jars which is implementing this specifications. But before that, we'll have to go to Tomcat and see how they actually give access to this servlet interface. So let's go to the Tomcat documentation again and see here. I already saw it here. If you come into the class loading page, you see they already have some jars available in their side, And this is one particular jar that is of our interest. It says servlet API jar, which actually implements the Java servlet 4.0 API, which is what we need, right? And now how do we get this jar? So I search this jar and I go to Maven repo and I go to this documentation and it gives us this dependency. Note that there are many other jars which implements this specification, but it is important that you read your web server documentation and have the jar which they uses for compatibility issues, of course.